last 3 or 4 months that we couldn't be there to support them, but know that we have been up there. So.
John, thanks very much indeed, and we'll have a word with you after when the draws are complete as well. John is joined by Damien Griffin, who is the fixtures secretary, and by Damien, of course, from the Nafina Club, and we've John Daly, the chairman of the CCC from the Waterstown Club. John, of course, from the St Ultan's Club. The 16 teams in the Senior Football Championship, their names are in the Keegan Cup, but whose name is going to be on it at the end of 2020 is Ratoath, who of course are the holders of the Keegan Cup. The Keegan Cup is just down from me here on the stand in Park Halton. Perfect conditions. The names of the teams won't blow away or anything like that. We've got absolutely perfect conditions here for the draw, and the 20 names, the 20 teams or the 16 teams in the hat for the Senior Football Championship will be drawn in 4 groups of 4 teams, and they'll be drawn randomly. Each team will be guaranteed a minimum of 3 games, no quarter-finals this year, and the top team in each group will progress to the semi-finals, for which the draw is predetermined. The winners in Group A will play the winners in Group C, and the winners of Group B will play the winners of Group D. And the relegation will reflect that as well. The relegation playoffs, the bottom team in each group will contest the relegation semi-finals, and the draws for that are predetermined. The bottom team in Group A will play the bottom team in Group C, and the bottom team in Group B will play the bottom team in Group D. And the losers of those games will play in the relegation final, with the losers of that game relegated to the Intermediate Football Championship for 2021. All very simple, of course. Now, the teams taking part in the Senior Football Championship this year, well, pride of place has to go to Ratoath. They won it last year, beating Summerhill in the final after only 4 years in the Senior Championship, at the 4th time of asking, winning that Senior Championship for the first time. Hard to believe that they won the Junior Championship as recently as 2012. Then we have Summerhill runners-up. They're runners-up in 2019, also runners-up in the previous 2 years. They'll still be among the favourites this year. They've contested 47 consecutive senior championships since winning the intermediate title in 1972. They're the 3rd longest team in the senior grade. They've won the Keegan Cup on 7 occasions, the last of which was in 2013, and they're the current holders of the Feis Cup. Next we have Gael Colmkill, beaten semi-finalists last year. It'll be their 7th year in their current senior term. They won the intermediate title in 2013. They've been knocking on the door in the senior championship in recent years. They are the reigning league champions and were runners-up in the Feis Cup last year. They've won the Keegan Cup on 3 occasions. The last time was in 1991. Then we have Simonstown Gales, who were going for 3 in a row in 2018. They had won it in 2016 and 2017. 2016, their first time ever to win the Keegan Cup. Last year, they got caught napping in the semi-final in the closing stages against Summerhill and paid the penalty, didn't reach the final. Then we have the beaten quarter-finalists from last year. Screen were one of them. They'll be contesting their 83rd consecutive senior championship this year, and that's arguably the finest achievement in the history of Meath club football. They've been champions on 13 occasions, the last of which was probably the most dramatic, a last gasp point sealing a memorable comeback against Centralstown in 2010. Also beaten quarter-finalists last year were Nafina. They won the intermediate title in 2012. They've contested 2 county finals but lost on both occasions. They were beaten by their neighbours Summerhill in the quarter-final last year. Then we have Donaghmore Ashbourne, who were also beaten quarter-finalists last year. Since winning the intermediate title in 2007, they have, like Nafina, contested 2 Keegan Cup finals without success. Dunshaughlin were also beaten quarter-finalists last year. They bowed out to Simonstown Gales. They've contested 22 successive senior championships since winning the intermediate in 1997. And they made history in 2000 when winning the senior title for the first time, and they went on to win 3 in a row, the last team to do so. Curraha were beaten in the preliminary quarter-finals last year. This will be their 3rd year in the senior ranks. Last year they lost out to their neighbours Donaghmore Ashbourne in the preliminary quarter-final. Navan O'Mahony's didn't qualify for the knockout stages, a little bit unusual for them because they are top of the roll of honour with 20 senior titles to their credit, including a 5 in a row in the late 50s and 4 in a row in the late 1980s. Their last success was in 2015. Moynalvey didn't qualify for the knockout stages last year because they finished 4th in their group. They're one of the few clubs in the senior grade that has never made it through to the final, but this will be their 9th consecutive year in the senior grade. St Peter's Dunboyne failed to qualify last year because they were 4th in their group. It was a disappointing year for them. They were the defending champions going in. They had the Keegan Cup from the previous year. They've won it 3 times in total, 2018 being their last time. Wolf Tones won their relegation playoff game. They've had remarkable success since winning the junior title and intermediate titles in the mid-noughties, and they've won the Keegan Cup once in 2006. They have a new manager this year, Michael McDermott, former Clare manager. St Columkills also survived at senior grade because of a relegation playoff win. They of course won the intermediate as recently as 2016. They went on to contest the All-Ireland Club final. And Centralstown were also relegation playoff winners. The Yellow Forest Parishioners are the second longest serving club in the senior championship after Screen. They're 30 years, however, behind them. This will be their 53rd, it's Screen's 83rd. And the newcomers this year in the senior championship are Nobber, who won the intermediate last year. They've never won the senior championship, never got to the final either, but they were very, very impressive in the intermediate final against Trim last year, and they will be hoping for a longer stay in the senior ranks this time. So we're ready to rock and roll here in Park Halton. The first 2 names out of the hat, out of the cup I should say, will play each other. They will be in Group A, first 4 teams in Group A. But the first 2 will actually play each other. So John Kavanagh to draw the first team out of the hat. Damien Griffin holding the Keegan Cup. It's Curraha who are first out. Curraha will play the second team out, and the second team out could be local derby, is it? No, it's not. It's Wolf Tones. That's a repeat of a junior final in 2003, I think it was. Now, Curraha against Wolf Tones. The next pairing in the group, the 16 teams. Summerhill are there. Summerhill will be playing Wolf Tones and Curraha anyway as well, but who will they be playing first? They'll be playing Moynalvey. That's a big local derby between Moynalvey and Summerhill. On we go to Group B, the next 4 teams. Group B, first team out of the cup is Donaghmore Ashbourne. So Donaghmore Ashbourne are out of the cup there, and Donaghmore Ashbourne will face Navan O'Mahony's in the first round. So Donaghmore Ashbourne against Navan O'Mahony's in the first round, and that will be followed in the same group, Group B. Na Fianna are in that group with O'Mahony's and Donaghmore Ashbourne. So Na Fianna, Damien's club there, and they will play Centralstown. So that is Navan O'Mahony's and Donaghmore Ashbourne, Centralstown and Na Fianna in Group B. Now we're moving on to Group C in the Senior Football Championship. The prize, incidentally, is the Keegan Cup. Simonstown Gales are the first out for Group C. So Simonstown Gales will face Screen, that's a repeat of a final from a few years ago. Screen and Simonstown Gales meeting in the first round. The other 2 teams in the group, Ratoath are in it, the defending champions. Ratoath in against their neighbours Screen. But who will they play in the first round? It's Ratoath against Nobber, the newcomers. And that's a clash. Brian Farrell is the new manager of Ratoath this year, and he'll be coming in up against a club that he helped to win the intermediate championship last year and getting to the senior. So a lot of focus on Brian Farrell in that game. So Ratoath against Nobber and Simonstown Gales against Screen. The last group in the Senior Football Championship, St Peter's Dunboyne, champions in 2018. St Peter's Dunboyne will face Dunshaughlin, the big local derby there in the first round. Dunshaughlin against St Peter's Dunboyne. And the last 2 teams, St Columkills, only a couple of years in the senior ranks, and they will play Gael Columkill. Gael Columkill have been knocking on the door the last couple of years, so it's a battle of the Columkills in that group. Just to recap on the Senior Football Championship, incidentally, when we do say that the Keegan Cup is the prize, Fairyhouse Steel, of course, the sponsors of the Senior Football Championship again this year. And just when we do mention the Keegan Cup, our condolences to the Keegan family and the Caffrey family in Lobinstown on the death of Kathleen Caffrey. Nee Keegan passed away during the week. She was a niece of Tom Keegan, after whom the Keegan Cup is called. So the draw for the Senior Football, Now the Senior Football Championship 2020, Group A, Curraha against Wolf Tones, Summerhill against Moynalvey, Donaghmore Ashbourne will play Navan O'Mahony's, Na Fianna will play Centralstown. In Group C, it's Simonstown Gales against Screen, Ratoath against Nobber, and in Group D, it's St Peter's Dunboyne against Dunshaughlin, and St Columkills will play Gael Columkill. So we'll reflect on that a little while later on, but we'll move on to the Intermediate Football Championship first of all, and the draw for there is sponsored by Mead Potato Company and the teams in the hat. And the prize, of course, will be the Matty McDonald Cup. With the teams in the hat, 20 teams in the Intermediate Championship, 5 groups of 4 teams, and they are Ballinabrackey, Ballinlough, Bective, Blackhall Gales, Castletown, Clonagale, Duleek Bellewstown, Dunderry, Drumbarra, Kilmainham, Longwood, Meath Hill, Moyla, Oldcastle, Rathkenny, Sidden, St Michael's, St Patrick's, Trim and Walterstown. That's the alphabetical sequence. Of course, 3 teams down from the senior grade last year, Rathkenny, St Patrick's and Longwood, beaten in their various relegation playoffs, and 2 teams up from the Junior Football Championship, as was pre-arranged, Clonagale and Moyla, the 2 teams that drew in the junior final. They knew going into the junior final that they would be promoted to intermediate, and they're here among the 20 teams that we have this afternoon. Once again, it's John Kavanagh to draw the teams, and 5 groups of 4 teams, remember, in this Intermediate Football Championship. There will be one preliminary quarter final. The winners of Group D will play the winners of Group E in a preliminary quarter final. The winners of the other 3 groups will go straight through to the semi-finals. Only just one preliminary, it's not really a preliminary quarter final, it's a quarter final, I should say. So here we go, Group A, first 2 teams out. The first team out in the Intermediate Football Championship is Bective. So Bective are the first team out, and Bective in the first round, Group A, will face Drumbarra. Bective and Drumbarra, they'd be familiar rivals. They've met plenty of times in the Junior Football Championship over the years. So Bective and Drumbarra, first team out. Then it's Trim, last year's runners-up, will be among the leading contenders. Last won the Intermediate Championship as far back as 1949. And Trim will play Rathkenny. Rathkenny down from the senior ranks. That's a very interesting first round game. That completes Group A. Bective, Drumbarra, Trim and Rathkenny. Group B in the Intermediate Football Championship, St Michael's. St Michael's are first out, and their first round opponents in Group B will be St Patrick's, down from the senior grade. So Battle of the Saints there in the first round, St Michael's and St Patrick's. The other 2 teams in Group B will be Walterstown. So Walterstown, that means that Martin O'Connell will be coming up as manager of Walterstown at some stage in the championship. He'll be coming up against his former club, St Michael's. So it's Walterstown against Moyla in the first round. Moyla up from the junior grade, beaten finalists last year. So we move on to Group C. We'll recap on those in a couple of minutes' time. But Group C will have Dunderry, beaten quarter-finalists last year, Dunderry. So Dunderry will face in Group C in the first round. It's Dunderry against Kilmainham. So Dunderry play Kilmainham, and the other pairing in Group C is Blackhall Gales against Castletown. So Blackhall Gales against Castletown in that one. So that's Group C complete. Group D, still 8 teams to go in the Intermediate Championship. Oldcastle, beaten semi-finalists last year. Oldcastle will face Sidden. So Oldcastle against Sidden. That's another interesting game. Oldcastle, managed by Leo McEnroe again this year. They'll face Sidden. Davy Cahill in charge there. Ballinabrackey in the same group. This has the makings of a very tough group in Group D. So also Duleek Bellewstown are in there. Duleek Bellewstown is getting tougher, that group. Duleek Bellewstown, they're the 3rd team out in Group D, and the 4th team out facing Duleek Bellewstown in the first round will be Longwood, down from the senior. Ballinabrackey will play Duleek Bellewstown. That's Duleek Bellewstown. The first team out in Group E is Longwood. So Longwood are the first team out in the last group, in Group E. Ballinabrackey will play Duleek Bellewstown. That's the last pairing in Group D. In Group E, we have Longwood out, and Longwood will face Meath Hill. So Longwood will play Meath Hill in the first round. 2 more names to come out to complete the Intermediate Championship draw. Ballinlough, recent champions in the intermediate grade, and Ballinlough will face Clonagale. Clonagale, junior football champions in 2019. Now, let's have a recap on the draw for the Intermediate Championship, sponsored by Mead Potato Company, and of course the prize is the Matty McDonald Cup. In Group A, it's Bective against Drumbarra and Trim against Rathkenny. In Group B, St Michael's will play St Patrick's and Walterstown will play Moyla. In Group C, it's Dunderry against Kilmainham and Blackhall Gales against Castletown. Group D is Oldcastle against Sidon and Ballinabrakey against Duleek Ballyostown. And Group E will be Longwood against Meath Hill and Ballinlough against Fine The winners of Groups A, B and C will go straight into the semi-finals. The winners of Group D and Group E will play in a quarter-final. And the winners of that one will play the winners of Group B in the semi-final. Groups A and C, the winners will meet in the other semi-finals. So that's the Intermediate Football Championship. Let's move to the Junior Football Championship. 15 teams here in this, and they're all the first teams of their clubs. So the second teams of their clubs now gone to the Premier Championship and graded in the Premier Championship. So the 15 teams in the Junior Football Championship for the Matthew Ginnity Cup, and this is sponsored by Chocolate Tower. The 15 teams are first teams. That's a big difference in this year's Junior Football Championship, and took a lot of work to get this around and get it all approved, etc. over the last couple of years. So the teams in alphabetical order are Ballivor, Boardsmill, Carnaross, Clonard, Cortown, Drumconrath, Dunsany, Kilbride, Kilmainhamwood, Minalty, Slane, St Bridget's, St Mary's and St Ultan's. So with 15 teams taking part in the Junior Football Championship, an uneven number of teams of course just leads to we have 3 groups of 5 in this, which will lead to one team being idle at one stage, having a bye. The 5th team out of the hat for each of the draws will have a bye in each of the rounds.
3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3.
Oh, sorry, it's 3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. 3 groups of 4 is correct, and 1 group of 3. And the 2 teams, that's the way the draw is going. So there's a little bit of confusion on that one. Let's go back on that one. We're going to have the 15 teams anyway. 3 groups of 5 according to...
No. 3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3.
Yeah, that's what I have as well.
Yes.
3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. So it is going to be 3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3.
Yeah.
Right, the 3 groups of 4 first, A, B and C, and the first 3 groups are all 4 teams. So A, John Kavanagh to make the draw again, Damien Griffin holding the cup. Dunsany are the first team out. Dunsany, who've never won the Junior Championship, have been knocking on the door. They've reached several finals without getting their names on the cup, and they'll play St Mary's in the first round. So it's Dunsany against St Mary's. Also in Group A, it's Kilbride. Kilbride will play Drumconrath. So Dunsany against St Mary's and Kilbride against Drumconrath. That's Group A in the Junior Football Championship. Group B is Clonard. So Clonard will face Carnaross. This is Group B, Clonard against Carnaross. And Boardsmill will take on Ballivor. That's a bit of a local derby there between Boardsmill and Ballivor. Clonard against Carnaross and Boardsmill against Ballivor. That's Group B in the Junior Football Championship. Group C, this is again a 4-team group, and it is Slane first out of the hat in Group C. So Slane will face a couple of teams here up from Junior B in the Championship. Slane will face Cortown. So Slane play Cortown in the first round in Group C. Slane against Cortown. And St Vincent's, also contenders in recent years. St Vincent's will face Minalty. So St Vincent's will play Minalty in Group C. Now there should be 3 names left in the cup, and this will be Group D. And it is Kilmainhamwood. Kilmainhamwood will play St Bridget's. The North Meath clubs there. Kilmainhamwood against St Bridget's, and the other team is St Ultan's. So St Ultan's will be idle on the first weekend, but let's recap on the draw for the Junior Football Championship. And as I say, this is for first teams only, no second teams in the Junior Football Championship this year. Group A, Dunsany against St Mary's, Kilbride against Drumconrath. Group B, it's Clonard against Carnaross and Boardsmill against Ballivor. Group C, Slane against Cortown and St Vincent's against Minalty. And Group D, it's Kilmainhamwood against St Bridget's, with St Ultan's the other team in that group. So three groups of 4 and one group of 3, making up the 15 teams in the Junior Football Championship. Now we'll move on to the Premier Championship, and a total of 8 divisions in the Premier Championship, but we're only going to do 6 draws, and we're going to do the numbers in the draws. We're going to do them by number, because the same draws then will hold for the entire Reserve Championship. So let's go with the Division 1 in the Premier Championship. 8 teams in it, and they're all second teams of clubs. A couple of clubs here in the Premier fielding 4 teams in total in the Championship, 3 teams in the Premier, which is some achievement and says a lot about the demographics of the county at the moment. Dunboyne, Ratoath and Donaghmore Ashbourne, I think, are the 3 clubs who have, apart from their first teams, they've got 3 teams spread out over the Premier Championship as well. But 8 teams, we're going to, at least it will be known who the pairings, what the pairings are in the first of the Premier Championship after we do the draw here now. So in Division 1 we've got St Peter's Dunboyne, Donaghmore Ashbourne, Summerhill, Gael Columkill, Centralstown, Wolfe Tones, Screen and Dunshaughlin. In Division 2 it's O'Mahony's, Nafina, Ratoath, Trim, St Pat's, Simonstown Gales, Duleek, Belliostown and Dunboyne. In Division 3 it's Moynalvey, Nobber, St Columkills, Donaghmore, Ashbourne, Dunsany, Walterstown, Dunderry and Ballivor. In Division 4 it's St Ultan's, Cannagale, Blackhall Gales, St Paul's, St Michael's, Oldcastle, Carnaross and Centralstown. Division 5, Sidden, Summerhill, Simonstown, Minalty, Screen, Rathkenny, St Columkill, Tones. And Division 6, St Peter's Dunboyne, Bective, Longwood, Cortown, Ballinabrakey, Dunshaughlin, Castletown and Ratoath. We're only going to do what applies to Divisions 1 to 6 this afternoon. So, Division 1 and Division 2 and Division 3, Division 4, Division 5 and Division 6 will go by your numbers as I've just called them out. And they'll be in 2 groups of 4. Each division will be in 2 groups of 4, guaranteeing 3 games for each team. So, first out of the hat will be a number. And that number is number 8. So that's, just for example, is Dunshaughlin in Division 1. So Dunshaughlin will play Donaghmore Ashbourne, that's number 2. Dunshaughlin will play Donaghmore Ashbourne. So it's 8 versus 2 going the whole way down. 8 versus 2. 6 is the next team out, that's Wolfe Tones. So Wolfe Tones' second team now will play, team number 1 is St Peter's Dunboyne. Next out we have number 7, and that's Screen. And Screen will play number 3, Summerhill. Screen and Summerhill, that's their second teams, of course, just remind, these are all second teams. And 5 is Centralstown. 5 will play 4, and 4 is Gael Columkill. Now, in Division 1, it is, and Divisions 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, we'll run through them very quickly. In Division 1, it's 8 versus 2 is Dunshaughlin versus Donaghmore Ashbourne, 6 versus 1 is Wolfe Tones versus St Peter's Dunboyne, 7 versus 3 is Screen against Summerhill, and 5 against 4 is Centralstown against Gael Columkill. In Division 2, that is St Peter's Dunboyne against Nafina, Simonstown Gales against Navan O'Mahony's, Duleek Belliostown against Ratoath, and St Patrick's against Trim. In Division 3 of the new Premier Championship, it is Ballivor against Nobber, Walterstown against Moynalvey, Dunderry against St Columkills, and Dunsany against Donaghmore Ashbourne. In Division 4, it is Centralstown against Cannagale. It is Oldcastle against St Ultan's. It is Carnaross against Blackhall Gales, and it is St Michael's against St Paul's. In Division 5 of the Reserve Championship, it is Wolfe Tones. That's Wolfe Tones' third team. We're getting into third teams here now in some cases. So it's Wolfe Tones against Summerhill. It is Rathkenny against Sidden. It is St Columkills against Simonstown Gales, and it is Screen against Minalty. In Division 6, it is Ratoath against Bective. It is Dunshaughlin will play St. Peter's Dunboyne, and it is Castletown against Longwood, and the final pairing there is Ballinabrakey against Cortown. Now each of those groups are split, each of those divisions are split into teams of 4. Just to recap, they will work the same way the whole way down. To recap on the first pairings there, the first pairings as they came out, the top 4, it's Dunshaughlin against Dunamore Ashbourne and Wolf Tones against St. Peter's Dunboyne. That is Group A in Division 1, if you like. And then Group B in Division 1 is Screen against Summerhill and Centrestown against Gale Columkill, and it works the same way the whole way down. And the top 2 teams in the 2 groups, of course, meet in the final. That's there's going to be 8 finals in total. No, we go on to the. We'll go on next to the. Are we ready to do the minor football championship? The LMFM minor football championship is next. Now 6 groups are there because we're moving on in time, and we've still got the hurling championships to do as well. We're going to do the minor football championships here next, as LMFM, of course, sponsoring them again this year in this minor football championship. So let's recap on the teams that are going to be in the minor football championship. Just waiting on those teams for the minor football championship. There will be 8 teams, of course, and I think they're in 2 groups of 4 as well, with the winners of each group contesting the semi-finals then. Of the minor football championship then. The 8 teams: Duleek, Bellewstown, Dunshaughlin, Gale Columkill, Ratoath, Screen, St. Columkill, St. Chairman of the minors. The first 2 teams out will play each other. This is pretty straightforward as well. 2 groups of 4, the winners meeting in the final, and the final, of course, will be the curtain raiser to the senior of October. The Delaney Cup is the prize for the Division 1 winners, and the first team out of the cup is Summerhill. Last year's runners-up, Summerhill, beaten by St. Columkills, I think, in last year's final. So it is Summerhill first out of the hat, and Summerhill will play St. Peter's Dunboyne. So Summerhill against St. Peter's Dunboyne is the first pairing. The second pairing in the minor football Division 1 championship is Gale Columkill, and Gale Columkill will take on Duleek Bellewstown. So Gale Columkill against Duleek Bellewstown. Now the other section in Division 1, this 4 will of course contest the final as well. So it's Dunshaughlin are the first team out in the second group in Division 1. And Dunshaughlin, a local derby there against Screen. So Dunshaughlin against Screen in minor football championship Division 1. Dunshaughlin plays Screen, and it's St. Columkills. There should be just the one name left, and they will face St. Columkills will face Ratoath. So the minor football championship Division 1, the pairings are Summerhill against St. Peter's Dunboyne and Gale Columkill against Duleek Bellewstown. That's Group A, if you like, in the Division 1 championship. And Group B, each of the groups producing finalists. Dunshaughlin will play Screen and St. Columkills will play Ratoath. That's the Division 1 minor football championship. Now we'll move on to the Division 2 minor football championship. 8 teams again in the hat: Dunamore, Ashbourne, Kilbride, Killary Emmets, Navan O'Mahony, Centrestown, Simonstown Gales, Trim and Walterstown. First team out of the hat again, a group of 4 here. The first team out of the hat is Walterstown. So Walterstown will face in their first round game, Walterstown will play Simonstown Gales. So Walterstown against Simonstown Gales. The second pairing in Group A, Navan O'Mahony's will face Kilbride. Great credit to Kilbride. They've made great progress to this level in recent times. So Killary Emmets. So Killary Emmets will face Dunamore Ashbourne. This is the LMFM Minor Football Championship Division 2, Seneschalstown. Last pairing, Seneschalstown will play Trim. So let's recap on that. The Minor Football Championship Division 2, Walterstown against Simonstown Gales and Gavin O'Mahony's against Kilbride is Group A in Division 2. And Group B, Clary Emmets against Dunamore Ashbourne and Seneschalstown against Trim. Now we're moving on to we'll stay with the minor just for the moment. The minor hurling championship is just 6 teams. So we're doing minor hurling championship Division 1. And then we'll move on to the senior hurling championship after that. So when we have Raymond here, we've got 6 teams in this, so we've got 3 pairings really. So a total, of course, out of the hat, or is it two trees? Two groups of 3. So we've got our first game is Ratoath against St. Peter's Dunboyne, and the third team out will play the losers of that game. So it's Killine. So Killine Longwood will play the losers of the first round game. And the same applies to this second group in the Minor Hurling Championship. Kildalkey will face Trim. So that's Kildalkey against Trim. And the losers of that game will face the other team in the group, and that team is Rathmilline. So a quick recap before we move on to the Senior Hurling Championship. A recap on the Minor Hurling Championship. It's Ratoath against St. Peter's Dunboyne. The losers of that game will play Killine and Longwood in that 3-team group, and then it's Kildalkey against Trim. The losers will play Rathmilline in the second round of it, and of course the winners of the group will go forward to the final. Now we have Martin O'Halloran here, the chairman of the Hurling Development Committee, and we're ready to go with the Senior Hurling Championship draw. And of course we have here much of this is predetermined, but we have 12 teams in the Senior Hurling Championship. We've got Blackhall Gales, Cannagale, Kildalkey, Killine, Kilmesson, Kilkale, Longwood, Nafina, O'Mahony's, Ratoath, St. Peter's Dunboyne and Trim. But they are divided into two groups of 6 teams. And the 2 groups, there's a strong group, what's known as the strong group, Group A, which produces 4 quarter-finalists, 2 semi-finalists and 2 quarter-finalists, and Group B, the weaker group, then will produce 2 quarter-finalists. That's your teams for the knockouts. We're a little bit different this year in that it is curtailed, and both groups are restricted to 2 groups of 3 teams. So in Group A in the Senior Hurling Championship, the first 3 teams out will form a group. The first 2 teams will play each other, and the third team will play the losers of that to contest. That will make up the contestants in Group A or Division 1, I should say, in Group A. A little bit complicated, but that's the way it works, and it guarantees of course 2 games each as well. So Kildalkey are the holders, Kiltale are there, Longwood, Ratoath, Killine, Trim up as well from, they got promoted from Group B last year, replacing Dunboyne, who got relegated from Group A to Group B. Boardsmill dropping out of the Senior Hurling Championship. They're in the intermediate this year. Cannagale come up to the Senior Hurling Championship, but they're in Group B. But those 6 teams that I mentioned first are the 6 teams in Group A. So Martin, the first team out of the hat for the Jubilee Cup. This is of course sponsored by Ted Murtagh Clothing and Footwear and Trim. I think this is their 10th year of sponsorship, so gratitude to them, to Ted Murtagh Clothing and Footwear and Trim. First team out of the hat. Trim, first team out of the hat. They were in the weaker group last year. They got through to the quarter-finals, but they're the first team out, and they will play Killine. So it's Trim against Killine in the first round of the Senior Hurling Championship, and the losers of that game will play this team coming out of the hat now.
Longwood.
And they'll play Longwood. That's the first in the section. We'll call it a section. That's Section A of Group A, and that will, of course, the winners of that group will go through to a semi-final. The runners-up in it will go through to a quarter-final. Now, the second group of 3 teams. Kildalkey, the defending champions. They beat Kiltale in a replay, and I think this means that we're going to have a Kildalkey-Kiltale clash somewhere along the line.
Well, straight away, Brendan.
Straight away. Kildalkey and Kiltale will meet again. They met twice in the championship last year. They met in the Brendan Davis Cup. They met in the league final as well. They're very familiar, meeting in the first round of the 2020 championship as well, Kiltale and Kildalkey, and the losers will play Ratoath. So the draw for Group A of the Senior Hurling Championship is Trim against Killeen. The losers of that game will play Longwood. The winners of the group, that three-team group, will go forward to the semi-final, and the runners-up in the group will go forward to a quarter-final. And the same applies to Section B in Group A. Kildalkey will play Kildale, a repeat of last year's final, which went to a replay. That will have everyone on their toes from the very throw-in of this year's Senior Hurling Championship. And waiting in the wings then for the loser in a very important game will be Ratoath. So that is Group A in the Senior Hurling Championship. But could the winners come from Group B, the so-called weaker group? Well, let's see who's contesting this weaker group. St. Peter's Dunboyne are down from Group A. They had a bad year last year, St. Peter's Dunboyne. Na Fianna are in it. Blackhall Gales are there as well. Kilmessan, Navan O'Mahony's, and Clonagale, having won last year's intermediate title, they replaced Boardsmill in the Senior Hurling Championship. So let's see who the first of the three-team section in Group B in the Senior Hurling Championship. Martin.
Brendan is newly promoted Clonagale.
Clonagale are the first team out of the hat, and Clonagale will face Kilmessan. So it's Clonagale against Kilmessan in the first round. The losers of that game then will face
Blackhall Gales.
Now, a guarantee here for every team will have a minimum of 2 games. So Blackhall Gales are the third team out, and they'll face the losers of the Clonagale-Kilmessan game. So Clonagale, that's the Section A in Group B completed. Now, the remaining 3 teams in the Senior Hurling Championship are the first 2 to play each other.
Na Fianna
beaten quarter-finalists last year, and Na Fianna
Navan O'Mahony's
will face Navan O'Mahony's, and one more team in the Senior Hurling Championship who will face the losers of that Na Fianna O'Mahony's game, and they are
St. Peter's
Dunboyne. So to recap on Group B in the Senior Hurling Championship, and Group B is Clonagale against Kilmessan. The losers of that game will play Blackhall Gales, and then it's Na Fianna against Navan O'Mahony's, and the losers will face St. Peter's Dunboyne. The runners-up, the winners of Section 1 and 2 in Group A will advance to the semi-finals. The runners-up in those 2 sections will go through to the quarter-finals, where they'll meet the winners of Sections 1 and 2 in Group B. So that's the way it works. The Intermediate Hurling Championship will follow the very same pattern. Again, we have got 12 teams. We've got 12 teams in the Intermediate Hurling Championship, including last year's junior champions Killeen and Boardsmill down from senior. So let's go with the Intermediate Hurling Championship draw. We've got Boardsmill, we've got Dunderry, Drumree, Gale, Columkill, Wolf Tones and Rathmaline all in Group A, the stronger section in the Intermediate Hurling Championship. So let's go with this one, Martin, for the Mick Leonard Cup.
Gale Columkill.
So Gale Columkill are first out, and they will face Rathmaline. Interesting opener there. Gale Columkill against Rathmaline. The losers of that game
will play Boardsmill.
That is in the Intermediate Hurling Championship, Section 1 of Group A. Now, Section 2 of Group A.
Wolf Tones
will face
Dunderry,
and I think that leaves Boardsmill. We have
Drumree.
Or they'll face Drumree beaten semi-finalists last year. So let's recap on that. Dunderry, of course, were beaten finalists last year in the Intermediate Championship, but the draw is Group A, Section 1, Gale Columkill against Rathmaline, the losers to face Boardsmill, and Wolf Tones against Dunderry. Dunderry, last year's runners-up, they play Wolf Tones, and the losers will face Drumree. Now, let's move on to Group B in the Intermediate Hurling Championship. So Group B in the Intermediate Hurling Championship, and the 6 teams in this, Dunamore, Ashbourne, Kilscare, Moylock, Kildalkey, Kiltale, Trim and Killeen. They're the 6 teams in it. Killeen, last year's junior champions. First team out of the hat here, Kilscare, Moylock. And they will face
Donaghmore Ashburn.
Donaghmore Ashburn, Kilscare Milo against Donaghmore Ashburn, and the losers of that game
Killine.
will play Killine. So that's the section 1 of Group B. 3 team groups, guaranteeing 2 games for each team, and section 2 in Group B,
Kildalkey.
we've got Kildalkey, and Kildalkey will play, that's Kildalkey's second team of course,
They will play Trim.
and they will play Trim second team as well. And the third team in that who will play the losers of that Kildalkey Trim game
It's Kintail.
is Kiltale. So the draw for the second section in that group is Kildalkey against Trim, the losers to play Kiltale. The section 1 in Group B is Kilscare against Milo, and Kilscare Milo rather against Donaghmore Ashbourne, and the losers of that game will play Killine. Finally, our final draw of the afternoon live on the radio will of course be the Junior Hurling Championship, and the Junior Hurling Championship draw the names just going into the cup at the moment. There's just 6 teams in the Junior Hurling Championship, so again it's 2 groups of 3 producing 2 finalists, so it's fairly straightforward with this seat. Group A in the Junior Hurling Championship, the first pairing is
St. Peter's Dunboyne.
St. Peter's Dunboyne, and St. Peter's Dunboyne will play
Rathmaline.
St. Peter's Dunboyne against Rathmaline, and the losers of that game, again 2 games guaranteed for each club in it. St. Peter's Dunboyne against Rathmaline, losers
Kilmessan.
against Kilmessan. And the other group then in the Junior Hurling Championship for the Tommy Kane Cup,
Navan O'Mahony's.
Navan O'Mahony's will face
Na Fianna.
Nafiana. Navan O'Mahony's against Nafiana, and the losers of that game will play the last team to be drawn from any
Ratholt.
will play Ratholt. So the draw for the Junior Hurling Championship is as follows. In Group A, it's St. Peter's Dunboyne against Rathmaline, with the losers to play Kilmessan, and Navan O'Mahony's against Nafiana, with the losers to play Ratholt. So that completes our live on-air draws. We will go with the Premier Championship just after we go off air. But just a word, we just get John Calvin here and Martin O'Halloran. Martin O'Halloran, quick word with you, Martin, on the Hurling Championship draws. Pretty interesting then, if you can recap them for the Senior Hurling Championship. We've got some interesting pairings there, and I suppose the plum draw is really the meeting of Kiltale and Kildalkey again in the first round.
Yeah, it certainly is, and they were the highlights of hurling for the last number of years in County Meath, Kiltale and Kildalkey. And I did see a smile on Paddy Kelly's face when they were drawn out again against each other. So that's something to look forward to in the coming weeks. I think the dark horses in the other group will be Clonagale. I think they're going to be an emerging team. Kilmessan will see this as an opportunity for them to go well again after a couple of years not going so well. So it's certainly all to play for.
Okay, Martin, and of course the losers of that Nafiana, or that game between Kildalkey and Kiltale, they will play with Ratholt, so that's going to be real. There's some great games there in the Senior Hurling Championship. Trim against Killine, Longwood in that group as well, and in the other group, Clonagale against Kilmessan, interesting Blackhall Gales there. Nafiana, of course, will be playing Navan O'Mahony's in the first round, and waiting there for the losers will be St. Peter's Dunboyne.
Yeah, and St. Peter's have been knocking on the door themselves for the last number of years, so they will see this as an opportunity for them to get a good run at the Senior Hurling Championship. And you know, you just said there earlier, we just want to thank CJ Murta and Ted Murta and Sons for their sponsorship of the Meath Hurling Championship over the last 10 years.
Martin, thank you very much indeed for joining us. John Daly here, who's chairman of the CCC. John, had a difficult time in recent weeks.
Yes.
The recent months, we should say, for the CCC.
Yeah, well, like, we never rest, and we have to keep going and keep this. When the word came through that it was going to be football, we moved. Got nothing to show on the road, and hopefully now there's good games there, interesting games on all levels, and hopefully we'll get back and enjoy them and forget about the bad times.
Yeah, and of course there will be huge interest now among the public as well, trying to get out on the first weekend in August.
Yeah, well, I imagine the first game, first few games to be big crowds, because people are just mad to get going and just enjoy the games again.
Damien Griffin is, thank you very much, John. Damien Griffin, the secretary, the fixture secretary. Damien, you have to go home now this evening and start planning for these games as well, where you put them on, avoiding clashes. There's some great games there in the senior football, senior hurling championship. It starts with the football championships on the first weekend in August. You've got that bank holiday Monday as well for the possibility of games. So a lot there, a lot of very, very attractive games, and sure to bring out the crowds.
Yes, Brendan, we start on the Friday the 30th of July, which I think over that weekend there's 54, 55 games that weekend to be fixed. So that's our job in the CCE, to go home tonight and start chopping those up and giving them out to different clubs and making the fixtures, and hopefully we get big crowds and great football, great championship. I think it's going to be a great championship. There's no rest this year. You can't be resting on your laurels. It's first past the post every time.
And one really good thing to emerge: the pitches are going to be in absolutely pristine condition when things get underway.
Well, I hope they are, Brendan. I hope you didn't put the kiss of death on us there. They'll start raining out in the next two or 3 weeks, and that the pitches should be in fantastic condition. So it is, and roll on the championship.
Yeah, and it is a new look championship as well, with the junior, especially for the junior clubs, with a championship to themselves. I think that's one of the big things, one of the big developments in this year's championship. That the team that wins the junior championship will be a junior club.
That's right, Ben. There's 15 first team in the junior championship this year. It's the first time ever that we have 15 first team to win the junior championship. It's other years before, the second senior teams could have different teams from the first round that they would have in quarter-finals, so that should even it out and should make a great junior championship, so it should.
Thank you very much, Damien. John Kavanagh, the chairman of the county board. John, your overall reaction to the draws here this afternoon in your own club? St. Ultan's, of course, will be among the contenders in the junior championship. Just a quick look maybe at the senior championship. Ratoath will have it all to do to defend their title successfully. Ratoath are in the same group as Simonstown Gales, their neighbours Screen and Nobber also there as well in their particular group. But they look to be pretty evenly balanced groups.
They're very evenly balanced, and you say some great games there. Even Division 1 local derby down the first game, Summerhill and Albi. Then game as 1, 2nd, 3rd round. Obviously Group C will probably be the so-called group of death, I suppose, Simonstown, Screen, Ratoath and Nobber. A bit of a baptism fire for Nobber, unfortunately for them, but I'm sure that they'll hold their own. But really exciting times to look forward to and roll on the 30th of July.
Yeah, and it's all about now looking forward to the games, getting out getting out teams, getting ready in training, etc. They'll be doing that, but the emphasis really is on to observe the restrictions that are still in place and to be ultra careful. There is a huge responsibility on an organisation like the GA, a countrywide organisation which has so many members, so many players going to be taking part in sport and people going to games, etc. But there's still a huge emphasis on observing the restrictions, not just in Meath but all over the country.
All over the country, and what I appeal to everybody, players, if they're not feeling well, don't go to train. I know we all played and we all like to play, and any excuse at all, but if you're not feeling well, don't take the chance of putting other people's lives at risk as well as your own, and adhere to the guidelines. We've done it as a country for the last 3 months, and I think we're seeing the results of it. As I said earlier on, hopefully we'll be able to tick off the box and get to playing the games.
And every club has been notified of the guidelines and
every club has
updated guidelines.
The minute comes out from Crow Park sent, and Mairead today, our secretary, is out straight away. Can I just take the opportunity, Brendan, before we go off air, just to mention our health and well-being when we are talking about COVID-19. They're doing an awful lot of work behind the scenes and have a webinar coming up on the 9th of July. There's a lot of, I suppose we think of when this is nearly over, as the case would be, but there's a lot of effects on people who come back into games. We have players wondering whether they should go back, maybe they have elderly relatives or something like that. We have the old people still wary of mixing there. So the health and wellbeing is still working there behind the scenes, and this webinar that's on the 9th of July, I appeal to everybody to tune in and thank yourself to LMFM for their coverage here today, and all our media, Meath Chronicle, Strad Independent, Hogan Stand, for continued support and most of our games. Our CCC, who've had the plans done since actually April, we're told, in case there's games back, and the 3 or 4 different plans there, so they're able to act fairly straight and done a lot of work on that. Thank them, and to Mairead, our secretary, and Tara up in Dunganny for all they have done getting things ready here today. So many thanks all, man.
Thanks very much, John. Thank you very much indeed. The best of luck with the championships. Great to see all the old faces here again this afternoon here in Park Talkin. John Calvin, of course, the chairman of Christian and me, Damien Griffin, the fixture secretary, John Daly, chairman of the CCC, Maria Delaney, secretary of Christian and me, and assistant secretary Anne McDonald has been helping out here as well, Mark O'Halloran too, and Raymond Finnegan. Thanks to everybody here this afternoon at Park Talkin. That's just about it. We're all set to go on the first week, as Damien says, I think the Friday night is the last Friday night in July, and that August bank holiday weekend, the first weekend in August, we'll have our teams back out in the field and the championships getting underway then. And they'll run, of course, until the football final on the 4th of October, the hurling final on the following Sunday, the 11th of October, and the following Sunday then, of course, the inter-county championships will be getting underway. So let's hope we get a good clear run at those championships taking place throughout August and September. But from here, in sunny Park Talkin, perfect conditions for football or hurling. Have a very good afternoon. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
I'm done, Brendan. Right.
What are we doing left to
We'll get the Junior 2 hurling, isn't that? We need that.
Do you want to continue doing that one?
We'll do it here now.
Mark, no, Alex. Mark.
I can keep going here.
Come on. There's only a few to do.
Yeah, it's all right. Sorry, John.
Okay, down there, and Premier.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. Come over to perfect.
What way is this one now? What way is this?
Yeah, well, why did
Junior championship is 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4. A is group of 4 and 2 groups of 3.
In the junior
2 hurling.
Junior 2, we didn't do that.
No, we didn't do that. 2 groups of 3.
And that's it then.
No, we have
Premier.
Premier.
Division 8.
Yeah, well, I didn't do it because
Yeah, that's all right.
just one message we missed, and that was the cost of it is only a $5 in our games. That's another day.
Yeah, but that's another day.
Right.
Okay, what are we doing here now? 4 teams now first. In what? Junior 2?
Junior 2 hurling.
12 tones.
1 second. Sorry.
John, you write this down. Junior 2 hurling, first group.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wolf Tones.
Wolf Tones.
That's trim.
Yeah, it's your team.
St. Patrick's. The Red Toad.
That's group A.
Okay, Group B.
Portsville.
It's group B, yeah.
3 teams.
Kildalkey.
Yeah,
Kiltale.
that's it.
That's it. And group C.
Donegal. Drumree. And Dundee.
Sorry.
Okay, do you want me to go over it?
Right.
Okay, it's Junior 2 hurling. It's Wolf Tones versus Trim, St. Patrick's versus Roteau. That's Group A. Group B, Boardsville versus Kildalkey and Kiltale with the bye. Group 3, Clonagale versus Drumree and Dundee with the bye.
You got that,
Okay.
John, you have? Yeah.
Our next one put in six
Number 1. 1 to 6.
1 to 6 in here. We can run, are we doing there? Go back to Premier.
No, football.
Premier football. Premier football.
Take it behind you, Damien.
Yeah.
Division 7 and 8 can be done together.
4, 5,
Yeah, 6.
6.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
John, come here.
John,
John Daly.
when number 5, when number 6 comes out, they have 5.
No, you meet on Wednesday. We'll talk to you in a minute. Just 1 minute.
Can you do that, Rob?
John, come here. Draw these.
Leave, don't go away. Leave. Don't go away.
Right. So this is for group
7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Okay, number 1.
Number 1.
Turn it up the right way. 6. Okay. 1 and 6. Yeah. 3. Which? 3. 4. 5.
This must be 2.
2. Okay.
What are you doing now with
Oh,
Division 8?
sorry,
What are
number
you doing
6.
with Division 8?
Oh, sorry, number 6. That's division. That's division
That's
7.
Division 7. Yeah.
7.
And we've done Division 8 on our own.
Again,
Division
yeah.
8.
Yeah.
You have to do it separately.
Now take out number 6 out. Now put them back in. Okay, and that one it's Kilbride versus Meath Hill. It's Drumbarra versus Ballinlough. Kilmainham versus Curraha. And now in Division 8,
3.
3, which is O'Mahony's.
1.
Trim. Dunamore Ashburn. 5, sorry. 2, Boardsmill.
There's a spare team.
The 5.
Number 4.
And number 4, Slane has a bye.
That'll suit you.
Okay? Okay with you? Now, minor hurling, Division 2, and minor hurling, Division 3. And then that's it then.
Brendan, remember I gave you a piece of paper, the books with the minor hurling?
The minor hurling what?
I gave you, is that it there? Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, we got minor hurling.
This minor hurling Division 2 there.
Minor hurling, Division 2, 16.
Right.
Minor hurling, yeah. Dunderry.
Very.
Doing the wrong cup. So tails Boardsmill. Put them in the right cup.
Cheers.
Wolf Tones. Kilnesson. San Miguel. And Lafayette.
Say, Brendan.
And that is the minor hurling, Division 2.
And the minor hurling.
And now we have one last one, is minor hurling, Division 3. Last one. We'll put them into the right cup this time.
That's supposed to be 10. There's 1, 2, 4 teams.
14, yeah.
First team out. St. Peter's Dunboyne B.
No, that's all right.
Loughcrew Gales, Gale Columkill.
Last who, sorry?
Loughcrew Gales, Gale Columkill combination.
Actually, God, I don't need them.
The other one
Oh,
is
sorry, God, I touched that.
O'Mahony's.
O'Mahony's.
And they were Dunamore Ashburn.
Okay, that's St. Peter's Dunboyne B versus Loughcrew Gales, Gale Columkill, and O'Mahony's versus Dunamore. Okay, that's it.
Thanks very much for Brennan.
Senior football champion, Group A.